something that the UFC desperately wants from Conor. They want him to fight. So if Conor dangles him, I'll sign this battle agreement. We'll get it done right now, but you need to sign Dillon. That's a huge, huge, huge incentive for them to do it, right? Here's why you don't know whether or not him or Logan has the upper hand, is because we don't know the terms of the Prime Hydration deal. All right, so we're going to talk about Dillon Danis, who has claimed on Twitter that he is going to the UFC, indicated that he signed. That said, I have not seen anything press released. I know how he rolls on Twitter, so we're going to assume that what's happening is after getting released by Bellator, because he got released out of his contract, that he is campaigning to get signed by UFC. So what I am going to do is I'm going to list 9 factors that you need to consider when you evaluate whether or not he's going to get signed by UFC. If you, right out of the gate, go, there's no way that he's going to get signed, you are crazy. There are big, huge factors that are maybe he will and maybe he won't. And these are not like every single one of them. When I itemize them, you're going to go, oh, wow, that's actually a good point. I promise you that. So sit tight and we are going to dive right into it. And I'm also going to tell you the absolute best matchup ever for Dillon Danis in UFC. You will literally just, as soon as I say it, I'm not even going to take credit for it because someone tweeted it back to me. And by the way, you should go follow my Twitter on, Follow my Twitter on Twitter. Real Jesse on Fire. Instagram also. I'm about to go to Cancun. We're leaving for Cancun tomorrow. We're going to be there for 7 days. If you want to watch what me and my family are doing, take a look at my wife and lots of bikini shots. Real Jesse on Fire on Instagram. You're going to see a lot of that this week. You will not see as many videos as normal because I'll be away from my studio and microphone, etc. But I'm going to be going live periodically from our suite. So that'll be what it is. So subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. I appreciate you guys. And like this video. Actually, yeah, can you guys please click like? That'll help throttle this thing because it's an important conversation. You might not think it is, but it is. All right, so here's the deal. So here's what Dillon tweeted. All right. Now you can see that I am covering up the factors that we're going to go through in this video because I don't want to step on it. But I responded to this tweet and went through them. I'm going to talk much more at length about them here. But he said, we about to make a lot of money, Dana White. Okay, 3.4 million views. And so obviously Dillon is either campaigning or is indicating that he's already signed. So this is what we're doing. We're going point by point. And I would imagine I'll probably think of some other ones, but I definitely have 9 for you. And the 9th one is the fight that he would get first, which will break your brain. I promise you that. Here is, okay, so number one, the number one factor is that Dillon Danis just generated 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, okay? Now, I think the idea of him going to UFC, like people think that there's no way that it's going to happen. Okay, well, as soon as you say that statistic, that goes out the window, okay? I can promise you that there is a level of draw that would get the UFC to sign him, okay? 1.3 million pay-per-views is equivalent to Conor, like fights that are in Conor McGregor's top 5 biggest pay-per-views, okay? Like that is a number that will get Dana and the UFC to potentially take a risk on a guy who is a live wire. You know, like I was saying, you know, basically signing Dillon Danis is like pulling the pin on a grenade and rolling it into the octagon, you know? But a draw like that is worth it. UFC has always said they will give people the fights that they want. Now, I already know that the comments are going to say, we're not interested in Dillon Danis. We don't care whether or not he's good. Like, we don't care. We don't want to see him. He doesn't deserve it, whatever. Okay, well, guess what? I've seen this movie before, all right? And with everybody talking about how good his jiu-jitsu is, how it's different in MMA, and that is totally legit in this case, that his boxing is irrelevant, dude. Like, it really is genuinely irrelevant. The guy is a master grappler, dude. Factor number 2 that he may end up at UFC. Conor McGregor is obviously a very good friend of his. I mean, these guys are talking like they're love bombing each other on Twitter. Who does Conor do that to? Nobody, dude. No one, really. Conor has a very select few guys' backs, and he was so over the top, you know, boosting and supporting Dillon Danis, and Dillon Danis back in return. Dillon says he's, you know, Conor's his hero, etc. And nobody, or I'm sorry, you know, as an inspiration, or I don't remember exactly what he said. But bottom line is, no one has juice with the UFC like Conor McGregor. Nobody. Nobody has juice with the UFC like Conor McGregor. So if Conor really made a fuss about it and said, give him one opportunity, if the UFC wasn't going to sign him anyway, give him an opportunity, high likelihood that Conor could probably get him in the door. He definitely could get him in the door if he made his fighting hinging upon Dillon Danis coming and being on that same card. If he's like, yeah, I'll fight Michael Chandler in April, but I want Dillon Danis against, whatever on the same card. Okay. So Conor, huge juice. Now, factor number 3 is going the opposite direction because we're talking about juice, right? Talking about who's got juice with the organization. Anybody remember what the official drink of the UFC is? Rack your brain. You remember what's the official drink of the UFC? Answer, Prime. Who owns Prime again? Right. Logan Paul. Okay. And so if Logan Paul is a part of and supporting his girl trying to bankrupt Dillon Danis, what are the odds that he's not going to call in a counter favor and be like, look, man, I would really appreciate it if you didn't sign Dillon. Now, here's the main thing. If we're talking juice versus juice, right? Conor versus Logan, who do you think has more juice? Who do you think has more juice? The answer is you don't know, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because Conor, in the short term, seems to have the bigger juice because he can say, there's something that the UFC desperately wants from Conor. They want him to fight. So if Conor dangles him, I'll sign this battle agreement, we'll get it done right now, but you need to sign Dillon. That's a huge, huge, huge incentive for them to do it, right? Here's why you don't know whether or not him or Logan has the upper hand, is because we don't know the terms of the Prime Hydration deal. And we don't know how much juice Logan has at Prime Hydration. Okay, so as an example, if Logan has, I don't know the nature of his ownership. Someone was telling me that he owns significantly less of the company than we thought. I've heard, I heard as low as 3%, but I've also heard as much as 30%. So who knows? Bottom line is what Logan's actual corporate influence is at Prime Hydration obviously matters. And then the terms of the deal that they have with UFC matters because, as an example, if they just signed a 5-year deal, let's say they're paying, I don't know, $50 million a year to UFC. I have no idea if that's high or low. I just remember that Crypto.com paid if I remember correctly, $100 million to do whatever they're doing. So Prime Hydration, I'm just saying $50 million, who knows? Let's just say it's $50 million and it's a 5-year committed deal, okay? And they're in year 1. Well, Dana knows that he's got 4.5 years to fix this relationship if Logan gets really bent out of shape about them signing Dillon and threatens to pull the deal once the terms are up. Now, if it's a 1-year deal, and they're going to have to renegotiate with Prime in 6 months or even a 2-year deal. And, he's only got 18 months before he's going to have to, renegotiate with Logan. Because if you guys think that the UFC just kind of went, gosh, who can we make the official drink of the UFC? That's not how that works. Prime is paying UFC, obviously. Okay? So it's I know that the way that it was the way it was marketed was that UFC had selected Prime. Now, UFC is not going to just pick any random company. You know what I mean? But generally speaking, the company that wants that position is going to be a good brand fit with the UFC and they're going to have deep pockets. So Prime is paying an astronomical amount of money to be the main drink sponsor of the UFC. So the terms matter. If they're going to have to renegotiate in a short period, then it's possible Logan has more juice than Conor, but probably Conor has more juice than Logan. The next one. The fact that the PFL could do Jake versus Dillon, right? Now, there's a possibility that Bellator released Dillon because the PFL is going to sign him. Who knows? You know what I mean? The thing about Bellator releasing Dillon is he hasn't fought for them forever, and Bellator is going bye-bye. You know what I mean? They're going bye-bye. So if the PFL did sign Dillon, if they got Jake Paul to agree to that MMA fight, and I realize the Paul brothers probably wouldn't platform Dillon again because if any way that you slice it, unless Jake knocked him out in MMA, but even still, the platform that the Paul brothers provide to anybody that they fight against is tremendously valuable. Even if they beat the hell out of him, right? So I think it is extraordinarily unlikely that Jake Paul would agree to fight Dillon, but who knows, dude? Jake is his own guy. He might love the idea of beating up the guy who smashed a microphone on his brother's face and teased his future sister-in-law into the ground to where she, whatever course of action she thinks is this right one, which is ludicrous. But we've talked enough about that. It is what it is. So if PFL signed Dillon, they did the Jake Paul fight, that in conjunction with the Francis fight, they put that on the same card, and all of a sudden PFL's first pay-per-view could be a massive success. And all it takes is one big, massive pay-per-view success, and then they become a real threat. So number 5 is Dillon has demonstrated that he might be the GOAT promoting fights strictly through Twitter, right? Like promoting fights just through Twitter on his own. Why does that matter? Very simple. The UFC has a certain amount of marketing dollars that they can allocate towards any event, right? And so let's say that they have well, let me actually rewind. The UFC does this. They have, let's call it 12, I believe 12 pay-per-views a year, right? They know that they're going to make their big nut on 4 big ones, right? That's their goal, is they have kind of like a baseline that they expect to get all of them. And then they have 4 huge ones is what they're targeting. Those are, that's why they're obviously they're doing fight setups so that they can potentially get X fight that'll be big. But that's their target, is 4 really, really big ones per year. And when you look at that fight, when I tell you the fight that you're going to have Dillon against, and I'm not going to step on it yet, but when I tell you that matchup, you will agree that that is the equivalent of, I can't even imagine. As a matter of fact, I don't think that you could market your way to the impact that just these two and Dillon for free tweeting would have on a pay-per-view. I'm going to stick a pin in that until I tell you what that fight is, and then we'll go back and kind of discuss. Now, number 7 is he smashed a microphone on Logan Paul's face. So that is a huge detractor. Like that's a big one where he goes from, wow, he's a big draw to, oh my God, like this guy is so unpredictable. Our insurance companies might have a problem with it. Like I realized that they didn't make a big deal of it because Logan was in a tough position, right? Like, and in that moment, he can't back out of the fight for any reason. He can't. He cannot back out of the fight under any circumstances. But the reality is, name one time that someone has ever taken a blunt object and smashed it on their opponent's face leading up to the fight, regardless of what happened before that. If Logan takes that water bottle, throws it absolutely as hard as he can directly into Dillon's face, right? Bar it breaking his nose or something, it is not possible to do damage with a water bottle like Dillon did, swinging this blunt object. So there's no way that Dana looked at that and was like, oh, awesome, this guy's really great at promoting fights. Like Dana looked at that and he's like, this guy's a fucking hand grenade. I have absolutely no idea what he's going to do. Super unpredictable. Can't risk having him on the stage with us. That's a not good one, right? 2 more bad ones. One is that he's only 2-0 in MMA. Generally speaking, that's not enough experience to get into the UFC. That said, given his jiu-jitsu pedigree and given that he looked incredible in those 2 fights, it's possible, given his status and how big of a draw he is, Dana might overlook that. And then the other bad one is the performance that he had in the boxing match, obviously, where it's good that you didn't get knocked out, but he didn't go out and fight. Dana hates that, dude. Dana hates that he didn't take chances. Dana hates that shit. So that's another bad one. Now, this is the thing that I think would push it over the edge to sign him if they think about it. And I just put this on Twitter. And that is the fight that makes the most sense for Dillon in the UFC. Ready? Who would you guys guess? Boom, boom, boom. Patty the Batty. You have to have Patty go to 170 and you have to have Dillon make 170. You do Dillon Danis against Patty Piml, and that thing is going to literally melt the internet. Okay? Patty versus Dillon Danis is going to melt the internet. That matchup, there is not a better matchup that you could make that would have more impact on a fight card than Dillon Danis versus Patty Piml. I'm telling you that right now. At least I'm talking like between guys who neither of them have any championship aspirations in the near future. Those 2 guys, you put them on a fight card. You let them go at each other back and forth. It's hard to even wrap your brain around how much impact that would have on a fight card. I honestly, I can't even. And the fight itself would be so fire, dude. Would be so fire. Now, look, like, I don't know if I don't know if they can figure out a weight class for that, but you know, I think, you know, you have to have Patty go to 170 and you have to have Dillon make 170, but they could both do it, dude. They could do it. But yeah. There it is. I mean, I don't know. You know, I honestly don't have any idea if they could both make weight or make that weight work, but be a barn burner, dude. Be a barn burner. You know what? Actually, let me just see something. Let me see what did Dillon fight at in, was he on welterweight or middleweight when he was at, 175, dude. You can catch weight the shit out of that, dude. You can catch weight the shit out of that. You do that build up, be incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, that is what I got. So you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, and I will have more videos for you later. Bye.